Hello and welcome to Eastern Marshlands, an evening with comrades. Tonight we
With a
have,
twist.
with a twist, yes. Tonight we have with us
Oh,
Eugene.
how's it
Hey.
going?
We have Spoogs and shit.
I want to kill myself.
We have Em.
Hello, everyone.
We also have Socialism or Barbarism.
Ooh,
And
big boy.
I will be your host, TK Jones. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And how are we all, lads?
Horrible.
Well, I think
Well, I
Spoons
woke up
put it
about
pretty
half an
well
hour
that he
ago,
wanted
so I'm
to
alright.
commit suicide.
Sorry, what were you saying, Sockbob?
I think Spoogs put it. I can't talk. He put it pretty well when he said he wanted to commit suicide.
Well, we're off to a good start here.
It did seem, yeah, very positive thoughts. Very positive.
Positivity today.
Well, I guess
Positivity is expanding at an overarching notch.
Positivity is
we-
actually fascist.
speaking of fascists,
Oh shit!
we have a news coming from the Twitter sphere that there was a Twitter purge recently. Could Barbie, could you fill us in on that?
Was that?
Yeah, apparently Twitter is banning a bunch of Stormfag accounts. They banned Britain First official account. I don't know if they banned Richard Spencer's account or not.
He's up. He's up.
Apparently
He's still up.
he still is, yeah. But he did say that he lost a lot of followers. And I believe they banned the Traditionalist Workers' Party's account as well, but I'm not certain on that one.
Ooh.
Great.
And
Great news.
this apparently they're getting like stricter rules about this kind of thing. Because we see this a lot where people get like banned for saying racist shit or whatever every now and again, but they come back, and apparently they're kind of cracking down. This is like some kind of new precedent, I guess. That's what seems to be the case.
Is this associated with the de-verifying of several accounts, like Richard Spencer's account?
I don't know. I haven't heard of that.
Well, Twitter was changing the rules on how they verify people because instead of verifying just saying, "Yep, this is actually Doozy Blops's account," the verified tick looked like that Twitter was endorsing them, so they were going to de-verify lots of people like Richard Spencer and Britain First and whatnot, and Richard Spencer chucked a dummy about it, saying that he might as well just quit Twitter altogether. I'm like, yes, do it, Spencey boy, do it, quit Twitter.
Please spare my timeline.
Well, like, it's weird. Speaking of fucking getting banned, I'm currently in the YouTube gulag at the moment because some cunt flagged a video of mine, so I can't upload for 2 weeks. I think I'm about 3 or 4 days into that, so about a week and a half remaining until I can upload that again.
Shit,
Because YouTube's fucking flagging system is garbage. I'm gonna start a second channel and upload shit there when I can't do it on my main one. I don't know what I'm gonna call it yet, but yeah, fucking breaking news, everybody. Barbie is starting a second channel.
You gotta call it classical liberalism or barbarism.
I might.
Yeah, no, you should, because I remember you should have made this a serious, because you made one video about the fucking Star Wars.
I thought about making that a series when I first made that, and I like asked people if I should.
Yes.
And people wanted to, but I never got around to it. I just kind of forgot about it for whatever reason.
Yeah, you should do that, because that's amazing. Oh, by the way, quick thing. Me and Social Barbarism, last Saturday, so on Saturday, we were on Politics and Philosophy Discord server, and we had an AMA there. So we spent like answering questions from mostly Nazis. It was
How did
Uh,
that go though?
it was really good. The Nazis were extremely polite. It is
I
the
thought it went
NCAM
pretty well.
realist, and fucked up, you know.
What about all the monarchists though? Like that's where all the monarchists come from. I swear to God.
Yeah, like most of them were chill. Like this was a very chill discussion. We spent 2 hours on it. They have uploaded the video on politics and philosophy YouTube channel.
I have a YouTube.
And
I still haven't watched it yet.
I started watching it, and so basically, I will link the video in the description for the people who want to check it out after the stream. When it is up, you can go in the description and see it. It was really fun. If you have 2 hours of your life,
It was 2 hours? I thought it was more like an hour and a half. It certainly felt like 2 hours.
It's an hour 56.
Good God, man.
Yeah, like really long. Fun. It was a fun event. I liked it. So thank Gilly and thank you to you. Is it Gilly? Keep fucking it up
I
always.
think it's Gooley. Is it Gooley? I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah,
He's the
I'd
guy
like
who
to.
fucking recorded it.
Yeah, and he is like the big boy on the server at the moment. And so thank you to Gully and thank you to Vanguard Marxist for hosting this AMA. And it was extremely fun.
Did they ask, like, I haven't watched too much of it. Did they ask genuine, like informative questions, like they actually wanted to learn, or was it just a constant barrage of like gotcha questions from
It was both. The gotcha questions were pretty stupid because they clearly had like no idea what our actual positions and like opinions were, like what they thought were gotcha questions that we like pretty easily debunked. But yeah, it was both, I guess.
Yeah, because like I love the most favorite gotcha question we got was what's about the human greed, basically. And
that's the part I did hear, because I think the guy was like, I don't want to like frame it as a human nature question, but what about the incessant need for humans to exert control and power in a sort of, and I swear he was about to say natural way.
I want to make the human nature argument, but I know that argument is like a meme, so I'm just gonna use words that are completely synonymous with human nature, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, strip my sentence into another way of saying it without you guys thinking that that's the argument that I'm insinuating.
Yeah, exactly. And they think we don't pick up on that too. That's the fucking thing.
Yeah, I loved when we did
it's like with that.
Fucking alternate history hub did the same shit when I did my debate with him. He constantly did like the human nature but not calling it human nature thing. I remember that pretty well.
What's this? What's this about you interviewing alternate history hub?
No, it's on my channel. You can yeah, it's on my channel. You can look it up if you want. I think it's like an hour long. Me and him did a debate about I don't even fucking remember what we were debating about, but he brought up the human nature argument a lot. But he did what we were saying. It was the human nature argument, but he didn't call it human nature. He phrased it in some other way. It's a good video, actually. I recommend watching it.
What's like a good defense against the human nature argument, though?
Oh, nice spooks, nerd.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the only argument you ever need. It's nice spooks, nerd. It's literally the only thing you ever need to know for any argument ever. It doesn't matter what it's about.
The one I keep hearing, from my friends constantly is like, "Oh yeah, I love everything you've just said, and you've convinced me I may just become a comrade." But it only works on paper. I'm like, God damn it, every time. But
like, wise up, mate.
I know, like, what's
or they'll recite something that they heard in history class about Stalin, that he killed like 25 million people, and that's like because back in school, right, they would make that a fact about like the Soviet Union, just like on like one of those like sticky note papers, be like Stalin killed 20 million.
You fucking disgust me. Your historical revisionism is absolutely disgusting. It was 60 million people. How fucking dare you
How
undermine
dare
this
you?
tragedy.
It was 600 trillion people. You do not understand the mass number that we're actually physically talking about.
Mao
Soviets killed
literally killed all
billions.
those peasants himself personally. He beat them to death with a hardcover copy of Capital.
100 million people, did you say? How many billions of people died under trillions?
We have
Trillions.
an extremely funny meme about that in Russian memosphere. It's called "Millions of People Shot Personally by Stalin." It's like it basically there
It
was
should
so
be
many.
literally a picture of Stalin whilst he's like shooting like millions that are lined up, like ready to be executed by him personally.
Shooting everyone personally in the head, and it's mostly about the it's done by people who are not really into communism, but the meme was created basically by Russian channers, who are rather, I wouldn't say like liberal or socialist, but they're rather apolitical compared to the Westerners. And those guys were like, you know what, this historical revisionism is basically is a joke. And they even made like they accounted for how many people Stalin should have killed per second from the day he became the what's it called, when he assumed the position of the
General
leader of the
Secretary.
party.
Using what death toll? Like
So
what
like
numbers are
Yeah,
yeah,
1933 through like the time he got into
And they
power
counted how many people
through
he was
like
killing
the
per-
1950s.
It was so funny. Like there was a number how many he could have killed per second if all he did all his day was killing people, was shooting in the head. And they conducted that. Also, they've conducted that it would be extremely terrible operation in terms of money. It's too much money spent on shooting, and it would because
So
too
what,
much.
they'll come up with like a clever number like 63 times to the power of 10.
So it's extremely funny. But yeah, human nature. We handled it pretty well in Barmy. Like what I
I
said.
think so.
What I said is basically, I say I would agree with it partially because people always act in their own self-interest, whatever economic system you choose. And in capitalism, it means greediness and exploitation, while in socialism, it would mean something else, like self-improvement and more work. It would be
It's like class interest, basically. I hate the fucking
yeah.
like. I hate it when capitalists do the whole more rational self-interest, like this Ayn Randian thing. But like, even within like objectivism, that sort of ridiculous philosophy, like a lot of it is just moralism.
Yeah, because
I think
such
morals
things
are like
alike.
a core base of objectivism. Like it's all kind of shaped around morals and ethics, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it really is. Like, and especially with anarcho-capitalism as well, because they have that
Oh.
NAP shit, which is just retarded. Like the
Thanks.
NAP is just liberal idealism. It's just moralism, and like a lot of the capitalists,
It's hardcore moralism.
It's virtuous fuckery. Like, what the fuck? Why are you hating on socialism for being so human nature, and then you claim that NAP will be the ultimate solution? Like, it's so funny. Like, the same fucking logic, the same arguments applied to themselves.
We're gonna ban the initiation of force, guys. What a ridiculous idea.
Oh, that's a very vague law.
No, so you don't understand,
Yeah,
right? Once you have the NAP in place and it's looking over everything and ruling everything, you get like force fields and shit, right? It's gonna physically stop people from coming onto your property. Right? It's amazing. Trust me.
Are they gonna create
Get off
killing
my
fields like
property!
Hobart?
Statist activates ray shields. Like, sir, please, I'm the postman.
Fucking statist.
Activate defense mechanisms.
Launch the McNukes.
Exactly.
Privatize nukes. No, I don't see how that could go wrong.
Private nukes, private terrorists.
Fucking meme ideology.
I thought it was a meme. I thought the privatized nukes was a meme until I've seen a video of us talking about that, like unironically, and how good it is. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I think esoteric entity.
I think,
make a video about
unironically,
it.
if you do privatize nukes, they'll just be sold and undocumented to like fucking Al-Nusra, probably.
Yeah, probably. I mean, why not? I mean, there's literally no reason why that couldn't happen. It's like a voluntary transaction, and like they're obviously not going to launch the nukes at whatever they want to launch at until after they buy them. So you can't fucking like, get them
Well,
before.
it's
'cause
until
that
they
would be
drop
that
the
would be like
bomb and
minority
it's like they've
stopping it
incinerated
forever.
millions upon millions of people. That's when we say, look, Al-Nusra, you've done something wrong now that we don't like and none of us like. And because we gave you these nukes, you had responsibilities, man. You had responsibilities. You had to keep to them. And now you've like immiserated like 3 bajillion people out of the earth because
told
we
you,
sold you these nukes. And we told you, man, like you didn't
not to fucking
didn't
change
think
the
you'd have
topic, but I just want to
consequences.
interject on this topic. I was reading about what scientists are pretty sure would happen if like a nuclear war actually did kick off, and like Fallout and Stalker, all this like post-apocalyptic shit. It's like way too optimistic. Like actual post-apocalyptic wasteland would be like much, much worse than all of those things. It would be like the actual blast. If you were in like the actual blast, like you almost certainly would die. But like the blasts
You'd be
themselves actually
incinerated.
aren't that big of a deal in terms of like world-ending power. The real shit comes from like the effect it would have on like the environment, because like all the smoke and rubble and all that
Radioactivity.
shit would just like block out the sun, and everything would just freeze, and it would destroy the ozone layer. So there's like more radiation coming down, and everyone would just everyone would either just like die from like starvation, freeze to death, or like some UV exposure related thing. So it's just like absolute hell on earth.
Yeah,
There's
and
not
like
going to be like
the
fucking
nuclear winter
lovable
lasts.
characters like in Fallout. It's just going to be snow and everyone's dead.
Just gonna be snow.
Isn't
Everyone's
it
dead.
just like
Sounds like a
Syria?
gulag.
What?
It was
No, it's just Siberia. Yeah, it's like it's snowing, everyone's dead.
It was look. It was very much justified. Right? Some cunt stepped on my lawn. Very justified.
Oh god. It's
Well, yeah,
it's
fucking
like
anarcho-capitalism. It's such a like. I love their understanding of economics, because like the free market understanding of economics is just must supply and demand, and
Well, think of it, right? If you really don't want to learn economics, but what you want to sound like you know everything about it, just become an ANCAP, and then you suddenly know all of the market forces that create like everything, as you say, a good
the
and a
fucking shit they
commodity to
talk
what it
about
is
like the shit that I learned in
sold to
elementary
the
school.
market.
Yeah,
There's a very basic understanding of like how markets work.
I remember.
And it's
I
like
didn't-
extremely
yeah.
abstract too. Like that's really not how markets work.
I remember
But
doing
my forces-
economics as a class.
My market forces.
so go
Yeah,
ahead, Steve.
exactly. Like the fucking like supply and demand is like a very kind of abstract and like really, really, really basic explanation for things. It's not really a good, like you're not going to be an expert in economics for
Well,
saying like,
they need that law to
greed.
exist to say. Like,
Yeah, it's
What-
not. That
what are
doesn't
you
make
trying
you
to-
an
It doesn't really
economics
matter.
expert just screaming.
It doesn't really
supply
matter
and demand
what
are-
system you're living under. Supply and demand still exists in the sense like the demand that you've got and like how much supply that you've got in return for that.
No, I remember like doing economics in school, and I'm pretty sure the first day we learnt about free markets and supply and demand. Like it's that
yeah.
basic.
That's
First
the
day
only thing
shit.
you learn.
Don't you guys know about basic economics, you stupid commies?
Whoa!
Why
Maybe
do
read the
people
man
have-
red.
You commies understand economics? That's like
That's absurd.
Hey, if
God.
That's way
anarcho-capitalism is
absurd.
so good, well, how come it's never been tried?
Read Rothbard, faggot.
There's the red mushroom in the live chat says they called Iraq a socialist country in our economics class.
Truly
Oh
amazing.
God.
Oh
That
no.
class is run by tankies.
Oh no.
When the state does
hey, hey,
things,
hey. Are you,
it's more socialisty.
are you
The
anti-imperialist?
more socialistic he.
You know what? It reminds me of a great quote by Mao Zedong. You don't understand the socialism he was addressing a question from the people. He said, you should understand that anti-imperialism is when you support a government that does stuff. And the more stuff the government does, and the more it hates America, the more anti-imperialist support it should get. Therefore, I believe that Iraq was a socialist country, basically based on the fact that America invaded it. It's like, you know how you play Hearts of Iron 4, and then you invade the country and it suddenly joins allies or the Axis right
Yes.
at the moment when you invade them. Yeah, this is how it happens in real life as well. It's like, you know, you invade Iraq, bam, joint Comintern. Then I'm socialist, guys. Hello.
Hey,
They
do you
don't like
want
US
to know how to make your country a fully anti-imperialist country? Mass rallies. Get the whole population to protest by force.
I want
Yes.
an ANCAP mod for Hearts of Iron 4 now.
No, you can't have that because that's fucking anarcho-capitalism isn't a fucking state, and it's not centralized.
Yeah,
It would just be.
Yeah,
It would
about that.
literally just be like just chaos, basically.
The
What
nation
people
name
think.
would
Mass
be
rallies.
like capitalist hellhole. Population of
you
like
could play it
3.
as one of the corporations. That would be funny.
No, the population is 3, and it's like the 3 big ANCAP YouTubers. They're the only people there.
It'll probably be the same. It'll probably be like the same ANCAP company to say like, hey, we want to privatize information.
Oh, I could go with some of
Oh.
that.
I don't understand why these people
Yep,
think
your voice is too Robotnik.
who's.
Spooks.
No, not again. Hold on.
Oh
I
yeah,
Yes.
think I think the reason why ANCAPs love Pinochet is because they somehow convinced themselves that the previous government violated the NAP, so Pinochet like had every right to take over and then run the country as his own private corporation. Because eventually companies will just keep buying each other out until there's like the one company, and
Well, he like literally got his economic policies from the Chicago school, and then he fucking fired them because they were so
Yeah.
fucking disastrous. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
had to go back
It's
to
like
social
as soon
democracy.
it was actually as soon as he abandoned the cyber sin project, it's when the economy went to shit afterwards.
Well, it was forward
What?
because he. I said that the CyberSyn project was abandoned the moment he took over because the HQ of CyberSyn was in Presidential Palace, and it blew up. So, and his economy went to shit, and then it started to go back up when he started introducing social democratic reforms.
Yeah.
Basically.
Why do
It's like-
ANCAPs look up to Pinochet? I still don't get
They
it.
Because he
think
implemented their
they'll
economic
try to
policies.
justify it in a way.
Excuse me?
But well, if they really wanted to, the way they defend Pinochet, right, is that they don't actually call him a dictator. They just call him an authoritarian free marketer or some fucking nonsense like that, right? So they'll find any like grotesque way to kind of pretty much like say, hey, look, this is why I support Pinochet because free markets and because his militancy as a country did not actually define into like a dictatorship ruled by Pinochet, then they just say, look, well, hey, look, checkmate commies, fucking, and then show you like the miracle of Chile as like a fucking shite example of like One I call a mythical example of Chile is when you call the miracle of Chile an actual good thing that happened in the country.
Wasn't the miracle of Chile just like the GDP went up and like that was it, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
Well, look at these numbers that are
The GDP is a
forecasted in the
spook.
telly. 8% GDP. The economy's back on its feet.
Someone, I think, there was someone saying like to measure the success of a country, if you use like, I think it's like just GDP, you exclude everybody who isn't measured on the GDP or something.
And who
Oh,
isn't?
really?
Because it's all products produce. Oh well, yeah, sort of, because you only measure the amount of production. Like
That's
you
the
can.
one.
This is the productive forces, and not the quality of life or anything else.
Yeah, you could have like 100,000. You could have a population of 100,000 and then have 90,000 people homeless, but your GDP is huge because you're producing a bunch of shit. That's Ancapistan. That's what Ancapistan is going to result in. You're going to have like 10 guys that own absolutely everything, and then millions of people destitute because they don't have the McBucks to buy food and water and whatnot.
No, that's just corporatism, dude.
Oh, damn. Oh, all right. We better pack in.
Oh, damn.
Man.
Checkmate, commies. We've lost this one, clearly.
Argument ad corporatism.
I like how
Well,
like
if you call
the
every
only answer
capitalist
they have
example
to
corporatism, then can they really say that capitalism's ever existed?
I don't think they do say that. I think they say we've never had true capitalism. That shit.
Oh, but capitalism is like the success to everything that we hold great and valuable to us.
Yeah, exactly. We can see elements of capitalism that fucking that can fucking affect the economy. That's like a response I actually got once. Capitalistic policies, but still not true capitalism.
Yeah.
Because it's like it was fucking hilarious because in like the same debate, we were talking about like, some examples where there was deregulation and like it got worse. The economy got worse, and I swear to God, his response to this was, "Oh, that's because they didn't get rid of the right regulations." See, you have to get rid of
Oh,
the right
Jesus.
regulations. When it doesn't work, it's because they didn't get rid of the right regulations. You know?
Yeah, but it doesn't make sense. They have a really stupid approach. Like they don't understand why social democracy today is the most like widespread form of capitalism. And for a very important reason, because redistribution of wealth to the middle class and growth of the middle class is the only way you can have a fucking functional capitalist system.
I think the
Because
closest to like the most capitalism without like social democracy in the sense would be like China, for example, where they do have like well, the past few years their middle class has expanded. Well, like compared to the West, in Western countries, their middle classes have been shrinking. So you'd say like the West is at a very late stage of capitalism, where you could say like the East, for example, they're somewhat gaining towards our levels with like stock bubble crashes and whatnot. So expect like an economic crisis to happen in China soon or something like that.
Yeah, I heard about
Especially
that.
with like
There's an economic
especially
crisis
when like
in Australia right now. Very that's hyperbole, I admit, but the government got rid of penalty rates in an attempt to have more jobs growth. But all that happened was that people didn't have money to spend.
jobs,
Yeah, people didn't have money to spend,
right?
so now the economy's starting to slip because businesses are going out of
So it's the purchase and power parity level. Is that what you're saying? That people.
I guess so.
So like people are being like fed low wages, meaning that their purchase and power parity in a sense is slipped, and I'm guessing like wages have not grown since like fucking the last financial crisis, or have dropped
Well,
since?
the minimum wage is about to go up to, I think it's $17.70, but because there isn't penalty rates where you get paid double for working, say, a Sunday or on a public holiday, people use that double pay to then buy things. You know, oh God, I'm taking a very below basic economics look at it now, but because they're not spending money at the local butchers, the butcher can't hire more people, and they're going out of business because penalty rates were cut.
Right. Okay.
But yeah,
it seems like quite a bad issue there. Like, I think the reason why, like, in the UK, you have like these small businesses that start off and they grow in like the first year, like they're in business, but then like once those next few years they go away and they start feeling like the effects of like how business works and whatnot on a local level, people can't seem to sustain their own businesses. Like, I think there's like that with like the experience of being a business person, but also like the I would say like it's very difficult these days to kind of sustain a business with the amount of kind of shit that kind of surrounds us today, in the sense of like laws and regulations, but then you've also got like cuts and.
So we headed towards like another big
to the economy that are needful for us as a class to basically carry on or survive, whatnot.
So it's time for the working class to seize the means of production.
Yeah,
well,
pretty
the
much.
thing is, it ain't gonna happen yet. We've still got to get into people's heads. Like, look, this could happen, but you've just got to actually put your mind into
break the
it.
conditioning.
What's this?
Oh yeah, that's the first phase, which I feel like. Do you know what, I'm just going to interrupt quick, and I think when I saw like Jason Unruh's recent video of like technology and socialism, where it was like he was talking about how like the first world and petty bourgeois intellectuals they'll rather talk about like their own like first world issues, which I completely agree with, by the way. Like, who doesn't really? Like, if you live in a first developed country, that's going to be like the first thing that pops up or whatnot. But of course, there are bigger there's bigger issues that we should generally be focusing on, which I agree with that part as well. With like generally what he was saying, like, was people would rather like go on about, say, like net neutrality at the minute, or like say like, look, well, this is going to lead us to revolution, or like once net neutrality gets repealed, like what are all those liberal hippies gonna do without that net neutrality, guys? Like, am I right? So
for what, like an accelerationist thing?
No, I feel like we don't really. I think like in some level you do have like those petty bourgeois intellectuals that will rather just philosophize than just like say like talk about an issue, or like actually talk about like the physical conditioning necessary to like lead to revolution, for example.
All theory,
so like
and no
we talk
praxis.
we talk a lot, right? And here's why I think we go wrong with. We talk about the necessary need for revolution, right, in like all of its areas and like all of the issues that's a face under capitalism and whatnot. I feel like we don't talk about the first step towards revolution, if you get what I mean. So like talking about the very little things that actually need to happen for you to actually lead to like the next bigger project that you've got to focus on to lead to this mass organization for revolution to happen, if you get what I mean.
I think I understand what you mean, because to me the first step is to spread class consciousness to the workers, because as soon as the revolution kicks off, we need the workers to say, yes, this is a revolution that does actually value me. So I'm prepared to, strike or whatnot. Because if we don't, we're like,
Yeah,
the revolution's here, then
yeah.
like everywhere will be like, mate, I just want to earn a wage,
Well, like, I know what you mean there, but like, I feel like with people won't necessarily agitate or go to revolution. I feel like that itself is like the very last option of last options for people. Like, people in these days would rather go through like much peaceful and direct approaches to kind of rather than leading this insurrectionary armed struggle against the bourgeois state and like killing all the fucking super rich. Or like,
because the problem is, I agree, but because it is
I
always
think the
the
problem, right, we've
sport,
got
isn't it?
look. Well, there's many other issues with that. First, you've got like the amount of benefits we hold grant to living in a first world country compared to, I don't know, you look into like a sub-Saharan African nation that doesn't have much infrastructure. Well, there you go. In the beginning, the third world don't have as much infrastructure, or they're being given infrastructure by very developed nations like China, for example, that it's expanding its own imperialism, but through the peace approach of their socialistic policies that they like to spread so much into Africa. The peace approach to the Belt and Road Initiative and these other like infrastructural basis policies that are basically you can profit off in sub-Saharan Africa, and it's very first foundational like settings for like society to grow and like develop in itself. And I feel like with China, they're just taking out all the little like organic components literally necessary for like for society to run itself, but also like to make money out of.
You cut out.
So like China.
You said they cut out. They moved to the blah 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 society, and then didn't hear it. Hello, is anybody alive?
Yep. Yeah, we're still
alive. We're waiting for fucking Samuel.
Yeah, Sam, please finish your thought.
All right.
Or that's it.
I'm not too sure if I finished now or like I thought you guys were gonna say something else, or like I don't know.
Well, did,
I wanted to add a very important thing in the chat. Oh yeah. I wanted to interrupt because I wanted to move to another topic, which is a very interesting topic. It's a thing that I would like to address because the chat asks whether we're going to send a holiday card to Unabomber.
Is the Unabomber even a comrade?
He's an anarchist.
He's a primitivist.
Yeah, he's an anarcho-primitivist. And he's in prison. He's serving consecutive life sentences without parole for bombing a bunch of places, I think, and killing 3 people, injuring 27. He's a terrorist, domestic terrorist, so-called. All I can say is that we are not allowed by the rules of the platforms we're on. So this includes YouTube, this includes iTunes, SoundCloud, and what is called Patreon, to endorse violence. Like, we can talk about it, we can discuss the thing in it, but if we will all try to go ahead and start saying, hey, let's support Unabomber, right? Let's send them fucking gifts for Christmas. This will result in us being banned on everything, everywhere.
Jesus.
Well, you'll be on the fucking FBI watch list for sure. No two doubts about that.
I'm pretty sure like Spooks and myself and all the other Australian comrades are being watched by ASIO and the federal police at this point.
To be honest, I wouldn't be all that surprised because, like, when you talk little about like something or like the build up to something, it's like they'll start watching you to say like, see if like you actually go in and like participate in like an act or something stupid like that.
As soon as you present any sort of threat to the conservative oligarchy that has control over Australia, suddenly you're watched and suppressed straight away. Like, the unions in Australia are under. the unions are
With,
under
like,
constant attack from whenever the coalition is in power. As soon as the coalition comes in power, they start changing industrial relations laws. They'll bring in work choices as an example, and the unions have to fight like tooth and nail just so that they can exist. And then
I think as well with like when you talk about like terrorism as a discussion in like I don't know, like an educational institution like college, say, like for example, and like when you look into like their safeguarding policies, or like say like there's those people that work in the college, if you get what I mean, or like say like they're just there to kind of listen to your discussions, in the sense that there are people that do work in like in the direct form of like depending on how the policy is operated on in a institution like college, maybe like if like say like you say one word about like ISIS or something like that, even if it's like a very popular hated opinion of like ISIS, say like how much you hate ISIS, or like say like you talk about any like terrorist group organization, they're kind of like
Context does
words.
not matter, basically.
Well, no, they're words that are generally banned from being discussed. You can't use those words physically in a Well, you can't use those words in a discussion between one or say like your tutor, or like say like one or. Because if someone catches you off, like even without the context applied, it doesn't. They don't care about the context. It doesn't matter if the context. It's whether you fucking you actually go in there and actually say the fucking word, and it's the fact that you said the word. Now you're now suspicious of being like part of that organization, if you get what I mean. Even if you say something that is more of a
well, Eugene and I have trouble with
like that.
tags on our videos.
You can still be boarded as someone suspicious in the sense someone that looks like they could present a threat to.
Yeah, Eugene and I have trouble with our videos in that if we talk about I'm gonna have to say it on the live stream. That'll bring trouble down. If we have to talk about, say, a terrorist organization who's talking about how they want to abolish private property, if we put in the tags the word terrorist, suddenly we get demonetized, and then our video doesn't have any spread. Like a different video where we talk about, say, cupcakes or something non-offensive or ineffectual at all.
And not a normal like casual conversation about something like that can bring in like millions of views, but like you talk about something that's actually constructive or something half constructive that actually results like a lot of effort and work into.
Can you hear me?
That
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah.
So, Barbie,
I want-
is this related to how your video has been reported in that YouTube's algorithms and whatnot are so balked that any sort
No,
of...
my thing. I made a video making fun of Pole, and I'm guessing like a Pole got offended and like flagged it or whatever.
Okay. So
Facts over feelings. Don't
Yeah,
we
fucking libtard snowflakes xddddd.
literally are snowflakes.
Actually,
I want to say that on
physically
YouTube,
epic.
I'm pretty sure that we are in a fucking blacklist at the moment, more like red list, because our videos are getting like, I think partially because TK is in a fucking mask and a bot can actually see whether you're in a. I'm pretty sure, therefore, all the videos without any tags, without any titles, which is like your video and audio that you record, right? Before sending it over to me, before I make a podcast out of the raw files, the raw file of you sitting there always gets demonetized because monetization on our channel is automatic. Therefore, I suppose, because we're in a mask, the YouTubers getting spooked and they're like, no, we're about to destroy
I feel
this
sorry
now.
for people who do fucking like cosplay channels or whatever.
Oh, yeah, they must be getting hit hard with that bot looking for masks and whatnot.
Ah, shit,
I
he's a
didn't-
terrorist. Demonetize them now. Quick.
Yeah,
I mean, if you think about it, then like surely what I just said has to be more common than like fucking terrorist channels. So that's a pretty inefficient system if you think about
yeah,
it
it
in
is.
that context.
They
I
are
think, like,
legally.
the worst thing that YouTube has ever like come across, or like the worst thing that's ever come across to me on YouTube was like say like yeah,
Yeah.
look,
Yep,
it was like my tablet sent me somewhere else. So I don't know where I'm on the Hangout app now. Okay, what I was going to say, right? I think the worst thing that I've seen on YouTube is probably like those people that take a lot of time and
And he
whatnot.
cuts out.
They're like people who create like cartoon shows and whatnot. And it's like those ones on
Oh, the shitty
YouTube that like
animations?
create like the proper paedophilic ones that look also the ones that have like a large fucking paedophile base of fans on like a certain YouTube channel, or say like they'll produce like kiddie cartoon programs or something like that, right? But what they don't know, right, it turns into something way worse than you can imagine when you look into some of the like the thumbnails. Like some of them, like fucking cartoons, they create like two fucking kids stripping, like acting as strippers to like fucking.
This is the
When-
YouTube videos that are being uploaded en masse with like people or animations of Elsa, Spider-Man, and whatnot
Oh,
doing
excuse me.
like going to the store and whatnot. Is that what you're talking about? Because I watched a video of this today.
Yeah, I think H3 made a video about that, or they talked about it on the live stream or something.
I think they did, yeah.
Like
I
that
think I've watched it.
they've been covering it when it all appeared, with Spider-Man Elsa shit appeared.
Yeah.
But now it's a bit different because there's a lot of pedophilic undertones to that, and people are getting spooked by that. And therefore,
it's like
it's our Elsa Gate on Reddit. If you want to go there and see posts, you'll
Well,
find a bunch of weird shit.
that's what I was talking about. Elsa Gate, that's the one.
Yeah,
it's that fucking weird cartoon channel.
But
a lot of adult
YouTube,
undertones.
Here's like the Marxist analysis, if you will. Well, not Marxist, but like an analysis of it. YouTube won't.
A Marxist analysis of Elsa Gate.
It's like YouTube won't step in and mass ban these weird videos because the advertisers are still making money off of the ads that roll on them.
They don't. This is the problem. This is an amazing thing. YouTube makes money, advertisers don't. Most of kids' content is seen by kids with tablets who just, like, what parents do, they give them a tablet, give them a YouTube, like turn on autoplay and just hand it to them. And they're just sitting there watching those videos, because kids can watch a bunch of shit, They consume content they don't know what is good and what is bad. They know what's boring, what is not boring, therefore they watch it. And they sit there for hours, watch those fucking videos, right? And the ads are rolling in. And I'm pretty sure a kid has no fucking idea like how to buy something, or how to make they're not, doing purchasing solutions in a household. Last time I checked the Western families. But problem is that YouTube.
So is it YouTube making money off of the ads that play on the videos?
On the videos of kids just staring at them. And the point is that YouTube doesn't want to lose this giant fucking money cow of money on children's content, because children know without the parents and they're not selling anything with it.
That's the one.
Yeah, and it's a giant fucking thing because YouTube is like, yeah, well, it's so much money because this is the most profitable fucking, thing they have. So many views, so much watch time, 100% fucking average watch time, lovely, and a million views. So
I just want to say I fucking hate children. Children are the worst. Like children are just the worst type of people.
I had to go to.
I hate everything about children. They're fucking gross, and like the TV and movies that people make for them are terrible.
Well, yeah, they're like the type of they're the only people in the first world that will carry out worms or like fucking stomach worms and all that fucking bad shit. Like they can pass that on to you and you won't even fucking realize it.
Exactly.
Children are amazing. Children's show are great. Have you seen DuckTales?
DuckTales.
I've never seen DuckTales, actually, believe it or not.
You haven't seen this? Why you think that children's entertainment is terrible?
I had a very sad childhood.
I understand. Same.
Children's entertainment has gotten terrible. I mean, Elsa.
I feel like once we got past 2010, once we got past 2010, and then like all of a sudden you see these like all new era like kids programs. The quality of like television these days has gone so shite. Like I remember watching like Drake and Josh as a kid, and actually enjoying watching that show, Drake and Josh, because who doesn't? You know what I mean? But like as soon as you go past like 2010, and then you start seeing all these other programs that pop up out of nowhere. And they're like the new shows to watch on like Nickelodeon. It's like so shit. It's like almost fucking makes you want to lose brain cells watching it.
We should just do what the Soviet Union did and just make it like communist propaganda cartoons. And like that's it.
Yeah, should we just create every show possible on Earth but without criticizing our government at least?
You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, just please don't criticize us. Thanks.
Yeah.
But
wow,
Soviet Union was cartoons, but they were not propaganda. Actually, they were rather quality stuff. We had our own Thomas the Tank Engine, for example.
What? Hold on. Whoa, hold on. Whoa. You're dealing with my childhood right there. The Soviet Union had their own Thomas the Tank Engine?
We didn't have Thomas.
I would love to watch that.
But we had a short cartoon that is called A Tank Engine from Marsh cover. It's an amazing show. And like, you know how America has the engine that could, you know? And it's like, oh, and he was climbing a mountain, and then he rolled down, but then he did it finally. Yay, American dream, consume, fucking work, be a wage slave, you know, propaganda undertones. But in this case, it was a very cheery tank engine, and you always wanted to look at the like at the flowers because he was so interested, you know, and he was like, it wasn't like a tank engine in Thomas where it's like, I'm standing around with a face on me. I am not even moving. I have no movement. He was rather
Soviet cartoons are just the perfect thing to watch when you're like really fucking baked. Like, just get high as fuck and put on some Soviet cartoons. It's just perfect for that.
I wish Netflix did like a service one day where they'd be like, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna extract all of like the Soviet propaganda programs and then install it into our like subscription service. Be like, yeah, separate, and like make the Soviet programs like a separate category though, and like call it like the Soviet category.
I just wish Australian Netflix wasn't shit.
That would sound proper first world though to me. But I like the idea, so fuck it.
What if we get a section where it's just third world shows? How about that?
Ugandan
well, if you really had like a third world category, you'd be a bunch of like Ugandan like movie films that are like so shit graphic quality. They're like, have you seen like that Ugandan film where it's like the black guy? Yeah, Captain Alex. It's like he's like the really shit helicopter scene, and he's like jumps off as the helicopter explodes.
Come on,
I love the narrator in that movie.
Captain Alex is a great film. Unironically, fight me.
Animation. I love the animation production because it's just so bad. I love
Captain
it.
Alex,
but it's so good.
I have also seen a video of people analyzing the room from the standpoint of narrative and how the narrative is directed by the movement of the characters in a particular scene. And the person unironically saying, "This is a great fucking movie. Take a look at that." And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can funny as fuck, but I can see it. Like, I can see what you mean. Why is it genius? I see it."
It's The Room, for Christ's sake. It is bad.
Uh,
There's very little
Yeah.
enjoyment you can get out of it, and it's like, oh, we like it because it's bad. It's like, well, you admitting that it's bad then. There isn't much to it after that.
I have seen an analysis of some scenes of it that actually make it look really fucking good. Like, it's really funny, but I'm like, oh, look, the characters move this way, and this indicates conflict between them, and the football indicates the falling, the friendship that is falling
Oh,
apart.
God.
And I'm
They're reading way too much into it now.
maybe, but the analysis is rather cool. I still love the movie. The Room is the best. It's my literal political ideology. Like, this movie is my political ideology.
I'm a Neil Breenist.
Oh hell yeah!
That's revisionist.
Watching a Neil Breen film is like watching somebody else's dream. That's
You're
the best
true.
way I can describe it.
If you're a true Neil Breenist, how many dead laptops do you smash and spill coffee on every day? It's got to be more than 5.
I can't believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide?
Oh, you selfish
committed
human
suicide
being.
before.
Oh,
amazing.
you selfish human being. How dare you think about fucking hanging yourself?
It's very selfish. Don't do it.
Jesus Christ.
Think
How
about
we-
your children.
I'll put you in
forgot to-
jail if you commit suicide.
I forgot to make a very important statement because we mentioned it and we just went on, and I instantly forgot about the Unabomber. You see, the Marshlands does not endorse Unabomber. Like, I'm not saying we are for or against him. I'm not saying we're against him. I'm not saying we're condoning his violence. We're just not supporting it.
We don't want
You
our YouTube channel to get taken down.
This is
We
the
have
official
very
statement.
mixed opinions on the Unabomber.
Yeah, we don't have a fixed opinion on it. We just don't support him. That's it.
Very
Nice.
understandable.
Yeah, no comment really. We'll just
No,
carry on.
Monetize us, please.
It'd be interesting to see anarcho-primitives have like a cult of personality around the Unabomber, though.
It's
I
like
think
the
they
fuck.
already do.
Mate, that would be funny as
Madam-
fuck. That would just add the cherry to the fucking icing on the cake. I'm not even joking.
It's like
That would
the
just-
fucking manosphere having a fucking fetish of the good. Who was the school shooter who was a nice guy?
Every school
Elliot
shooter.
Roger.
He was
Elliot Roger.
He didn't shoot up a school.
I am
though.
such a gentleman.
Supreme
Why don't-
gentleman.
I am a supreme gentleman, and why will you not let me touch your pussy?
Oh, his videos
I
are
am a
crazy as fuck, dude.
gentleman.
They're amazing. What do you want
I-
about?
My name is Elliot Rogers, and I am a gentleman.
Like, his
I know.
videos are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, but
I
come
tipped
on.
my lady.
He had
was-
a BMW. He deserved some of that puss.
Exactly.
He was so nice that, come on, you couldn't give him at least 60 pussies?
Exactly.
Elliot,
Right.
there's a video here. Elliot Roger, 1.4 million.
If maybe
views.
someone
Why do
just
girls
gave him
hate
the
me so
puss
much?
that... Imagine, right, if Elliot Rogers just got given the puss that he needed, right? And then he
Oh,
wouldn't
no,
gone on
that-
and fucking committed
Oh.
a 7 female killing spree or something stupid like that.
No,
It
see, if we
would've-
had
Just
would've-
should have
if
gave
we,
you should have
gotten
gave
a
the guy
girlfriend.
some pussy.
He would've
if
gotten
we had
into a
state
relation-
sponsored GFs, this wouldn't have happened.
Jesus
Only
Christ,
Bernie
state
can watch
sponsored
If you, did not,
girlfriend.
if you just didn't sponsor Elliot your pussy, this wouldn't have happened.
You could have saved innocent people's lives, alright?
See, we're just
could've
in
saved
a fully automated legendary gay space.
No one would have died that day.
Society. This would not have happened. We tried to warn you, and now we're coming for you, Bucko.
We're coming for you, bucko.
We're coming to use the state to enforce girlfriends on you.
girlfriends. That's the real fascism they want to aspire to. I've just seen a picture in my little socialist chat on Telegram. I think it's Lexnavik that linked a photo of a school kid that has a mathematics textbook for 5th grade in one hand, and on the other hand he has In Search of the Dark Logos, the philosophical theological writings by Alexander Dugin, and it has a fucking has a fucking thing behind it, complicated choice. Should I study maths or should I read the fucking Dark Logos by Dugin?
Oh,
Dude,
the latter.
reading every day.
The choice is obvious. Fucking read Dugin.
Read Dugan, please.
Hadouken!
Oh, man.
Oh my god. The power of the fucking pan Eurasianism. 4th positionism. Love it.
58th position is
Fuck.
I love it.
You're in the 4th position? That's so like 22nd century. Welcome to the 6th position.
Nth positionism.
I'm a 58th.
The infinite position.
Nth to the power of I
Screw
position.
you, Mike is Robert.
More math inclined
Mike is a
people will like that one.
More quick maths, thanks.
I love like
Welcome to the 5th position.
So what were you saying, Bobby?
I just love some of these I was watching, I think it was like Chapo Trap House or something, and they were talking about like those type of people, like the fedora types, like the fedora edgelords. They were talking about, I think they were talking about Trump, and they said like these people don't really believe that like Trump is going to make their day-to-day lives better. They just like him because like he like makes people they don't like upset. Like he just triggers the libtards basically, and that's
Epic.
like, yeah, he trolls the libtards epic style, and that's like the only reason they like him. And like that's like what they base their opinions on. Just does it trigger the libtards? Like that's their only like real guiding philosophy, you could say.
There's a lot of people who are prominent on YouTube and Twitter and in the media and whatnot who are famous for crushing leftists and lefty cucks and whatnot, but they don't really say anything. There's no substance to their arguments, and like all they do is just say like the gotcha questions over and over again. And say like, haha, yeah, now before you can really mount a defense to that, get the fuck out of my press conference.
Literally that.
Unfortunately, that is very, very true.
True.
I like there's like this whole I have a conspiracy theory, if you will, get a little tinfoil hatty. That like
Hell yeah.
You know, I think that people have realized that this whole like troll libtard epic style subculture on YouTube gets an obscene amount of views. So I have a feeling that like a lot of these accounts that upload, you know, videos of like these clickbaity titles, wrecked SJW feminist compilation number 669 420 or whatever.
Oh, Jesus.
I think like a lot of the accounts that upload those, and of course it's all the same clips in every one of those videos. It's like the same 3 clips every time. We all know exactly what I'm talking about. I think a lot of the channels that upload those are just like bots, basically, that are just trying to get views and by extension clicks on ads for money.
It's just the one guy in a basement who's ordering a video editing program to spew out compilation videos that are different, and then another automated thing to put up to upload it to different accounts on YouTube, and he's just collecting like the ad revenue off of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's
all one guy.
What's going on. It's just a bunch of shit. It's just like the same fucking thing over and over again.
Yeah, and it just indicates that if that starts to happen, it means that the whole thing is sort of, becomes stale. It's like, the poll people.
Yeah,
really
exactly, and
want
that's
to be
kind of the that was kind of the point that I was alluding to there. It's just just telling them what they want to hear, really, and it's just kind of like wanking each other off to like a certain extent.
A massive old circle jerk conference. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
here's what
it's
you
just
need
they're
to
like
know, buddy.
congratulating each other for like debunking views that like hardly anybody, like nobody really subscribes to.
Do you know what I find really funny is the ones that like 100% believe in everything Ben Shapiro says. Like them who like purely like defend Ben Shapiro, like whether that's discussing on net neutrality or leftism or fucking anything. When you talk about anything, it's like apparently like the mouthpiece that is Ben Shapiro. People think he's just the guy that will fucking answer all of your demeaning questions. Like everything you need to know about life and society.
Well,
and
it's like I said, I think
like,
they want this to be true on some level, and I think that's why we
yeah,
see
because
kind
he's
of the zeal.
people love mouthpieces for some reason. It's just people love a good old mouthpiece. Someone who doesn't necessarily make sense, but someone who can sound like they can make sense. Yeah, people fucking love that. They always like a guy who sounds like he knows somewhat of what he's talking about, a bit. But if he can if he can make words up in his head and like say it really quickly, then of course he must be like the most fucking advanced intellectual of all
He's
our
a big brain
fucking.
Wojak.
See what I mean? It's like, but people.
Ben Shapiro kind of looks like the Wojak meme now that I think about it.
Like people, there's so many people that buy into his bullshit. It amazes me.
There's a strange
It really
illogic in his
does.
thinking as well, in that he said socialism is bad because it's against God, and then like this was at a Q&A. Someone asked him like, "Why do you hate socialism?" He's like, "Well, first of all, socialism is bad because it's against God," and he says some other stuff.
It's
And then
against God.
a few questions later,
Jesus.
someone asked something, and he says, "Oh, I don't like telling other people how to live." You know, that's the whole sense of libertarianism. And I'm like, so you don't like socialism because it's against God, but if you're religious and someone isn't religious, aren't you supposed to like try to convert them because they're going to hell? Like you're telling someone else how to live.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, if you don't do that, if you don't tell a person that he's going to hell if he does a bad thing, and if you don't tell a person how to live, you're a bad person because there's objectively terrible shit that's waiting for him in the afterlife.
I feel like there's better ways where you can call out Ben Shapiro for his bullshit, and it's whether he actually misquotes anything from a book. Like, for example, Mein Kampf. Like, how many times do you reckon has he misquoted Hitler saying, like, fucking Marxism? He supported Marxism with, like, the Nazi Iranian ideology. Like, bullshit! You read The Third Reich and the fucking Mein Kampf.
The Third Reich?
Oh, I don't care what it's fucking called. The Third Reich. Fuck him. But, in the sense,
right?
He's misquoted so many fucking quotes from Hitler. It's not even funny, and I think
Mein Kampf, you will see that they're socialists. While in the Mein Kampf,
I'm
if you actually read it, you will find that he actually said we are lying that we're socialist to people, so that we will get the working class on our side. He literally did it, and
no one in their outright mind did not call him out for that bullshit, for deliberately fucking making some direct misinformation that he's fucking known for doing anyways, but yet people fucking still believe it. It's fucking amazes me, the stupidity of people.
Well, that raises some interesting questions, that scenario right there, because the way I see it, there's three possibilities there. There's the people are in on it, they know it's bullshit, but they just don't care, so they're just actively helping him spread misinformation. Two, they may not have like looked it up, but deep down on like an objective basis, they're pretty sure that that's pretty questionable, that might not be entirely accurate, but they don't say anything because they like him, and again, they want it to be true. Or three, it's fucking, he's like, air quotes, an authority figure, so they're just not even going to question it because they assume, oh, he's a intellectual, so he like must know what he's talking about. And like, which is it? Or
I feel
do you
like,
think that
right,
like different ones
if you,
apply to different people?
I feel like, right, if you took out that one characteristic of Ben Shapiro, right, that the fact that he can speak very quickly and that he's got probably, I can imagine he's got a good fucking vocabulary range, which I'm not questioning whatsoever, but then, but it's the fact that he can speak very quickly and that people that almost do not catch what he's saying. So, like, if I speak really quickly like this and make all of my points like so sound generic in a way that everyone will fucking automatically agree with me because of how fast I'm fucking speaking, like, it's that shit I don't fucking get. It's like people just take into his bullshit, despite like how fucking false it is sometimes.
Yeah,
And it's like,
there's a very good
of course you.
there's a very good article that talks about that specifically, in that Mr. Shapiro, Ben Shapiro, will talk very quickly, use large words, and say
Like
very
the same
little.
people that say like, don't you find it funny, right, with like Donald Trump that always goes on about fucking fake news and all this shit, but yet he'd rather turn up on a fucking media coverage that has the First Amendment right to fucking lie on the fucking media, i.e. Fox News, since 2004, they've been able to fucking basically they've been granted the fucking right to lie, and that's like not even saying CNN has been able to fucking achieve, despite it being accused of fake news a lot of the time. Yet it seems to be the only media, or like ABC News or like NBC, if it's like somewhat liberal, then it must be fake news. But then it's like if you're with like the Donald Trump side of things, where you're like you believe in all that shit, but then like you won't take into like the hypocrisy of like Fox News itself. Like Donald Trump would rather turn up and like speak misinformation, where he is allowed and to basically be free to freely talk misinformation without being prosecuted or something coming back to him in the sense.
I think
You'd
that
rather go
sort
on
of,
Fox News.
I think that sort of goes
I
into.
don't want to sound like a I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I really think, especially with the Trump tards, I really think a lot of it is they just want it to be true, because there's no way a person can believe half this shit. There's just no way a person can be that stupid. They just couldn't function if they were that stupid in real life. And there's like they're constantly getting
Right.
like the counter information thrown at them. So they have to know deep down that this isn't true. But they're like,
Right,
it's
yeah.
like a pseudo delusion of sorts because they want it to be true, because they're so invested in the pure ideology that it's just too cognitively, the cognitive dissonance is kind of painful at this point. So they're literally kind of
Definitely.
pseudo deluding themselves into believing this bullshit, but not really. I really think that's what's going on with a lot of these people.
I feel like that's what happens with like people who are like definitely apolitical as well. Or like
apolitical people are some of the most political people I've ever met.
Yes, there is no such thing because everyone exists. Ideology,
like saying
everyone.
that you're calling yourself apolitical is an extremely political statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also if you're like, but if a person says that, oh, I am apolitical,
It just means you have no objective to your name in the sense.
Well, does being apolitical mean that they're complicit in, say, a political party's corruption and funneling money out of their own pockets? If they're apolitical, does that mean they're like, meh, I don't care? Is that how far it extends?
The more, like, it's one of the most ideological thing a person can say. The most ideological thing a person can say is, I am not ideological.
That's because like meta ideology.
No, it's literally when you think that your opinions are objective and rational, it means that your opinions are completely subjective and irrational. Because there is no such thing. You can't, like, only, like, this
whole... You can't have it both ways.
It's this whole ideology meme. Like, you can't, only in death will you escape the ideology. It's not a meme. It's legit, like, it's a philosophical thought that there is no way you can be objective if you exist in ideology, and you always exist in ideology. And the
If there was
maximum
like an objective ideology, then everyone would probably have the same ideology, except for people who have like mental deficiencies of some kind.
yeah, but like
And I
there's
mean like
no
actual objective fucking mental deficiencies, and not like being an ANCAP or whatever.
it's multiple ideologies. It's because it's not only about your political philosophy, but also about your decision making and your outlooks on the world and whatnot. And the
So-
maximum thing that you can do with that is be self-aware of the fact that your opinions and everything that you do is based on an ideology.
So is this how like a random person at the pub who says like, "Oh, I don't care for whatever the government does. I just want to be able to drink my beer and watch my TV." But then in the next sentence they say, "Oh, I'm so goddamn sick of how much tax I pay. I wish there was something I could do about it." That's the kind of person that says that they're apolitical.
Yeah.
In my
Okay.
experience, yeah.
Cool. Or a person who's apolitical and friendly, and then he starts telling you about the fucking migrant crisis.
Oh god! Oh Jesus
You
Christ!
know that they're actually getting outbred by the Muslims? You're like, what the fuck?
Wait,
Where did
you were apolitical.
It's like, yeah, but like, you know, Muslims are a very giant danger. It's like, fucking hell, shut the fuck up. It's like, you know, in my opinion, Bobby, to your question, I believe it is ideological, because when you're ideological, you are very likely to believe everything a person with whom you agree basis, like you would agree with him on most of it. It's like when you're a socialist and you're listening to other socialists and you're like, yeah, you know what? Katyn, you know, this thing about the Polish officers getting shot by the Red Army, that's bullshit. That's not a thing. This doesn't count. You know, they're Nazi. You know, it's when you still do that. You know, it's when you realize that you are actually making your decisions and like judgments completely on an ideological basis. It's the thing we should stray away from as much as possible to be more rational, unironically rational, not rational, but like make normal like judgments and your own decisions.
This
It's one thing.
this just reminds
Is
this just reminds me of what I overheard someone saying.
Yeah.
They were asked like, what do you think? You know, is Australia a good place and whatnot? And they're like, oh yeah, I think Australia's good because we give everybody a fair go, blah blah blah. But fuck the Muzzies, they're all terrorists. Like, Jesus.
No, that is so fucking
One
true.
second
I'm not
point.
even joking. That is actually how people think. I'm not even joking.
Good God.
That is
and
actually
my
how people
second
think.
point is exactly, and this just point, which is when you have pre decided, like you decide beforehand to have an opinion, you tend to stick to it. And one of those, this could be an opinion on the free market, kind of opinion on like.
Oh, I think we've lost you, Eugene.
Sort of stuff. The leftists are. Excuse me.
We lost you for a second.
Oh, I said that like this could be all those sorts of opinions. For example, leftists, like, oh, leftists are liberal cucks. They're terrible. They're unfunny, and they point out that that I'm a misogynist. I want to keep doing my thing that I'm doing, right? I want to still be a privileged fuck. Go away. I don't want to listen to you. Hey, Trump, let's trigger the libs. They think we are bad people. We're not. You know? It's like, let's watch Rick and Morty.
And
Rick
like,
is such an amazing person. I am Rick. I'm just like Rick. I'm just like him. I'm a misunderstood genius, you know? It's all that shit. It's terrible.
Hmm. Well,
It's just terrible. By the way, check out Discourse Collective's episodes on Rick and Morty. It's a very good analysis of the fan base of Rick and Morty and the creators of Rick and
fans
Morty.
get the bullet too, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, Rick and Morty fans can definitely get the bullet. I don't even care.
Not because they're annoying, because they're extremely reactionary. People who idealize Rick, people who say that, oh, I am just like Rick, it means that they have loads of problems and they externalize them, and they think that if they had ultimate power, everything will be great in their lives, you know?
That's
It's just
because
terrible.
they
There's
have like 1,000 IQ level.
If anybody says
Yeah,
they're
I
just like
mentioned
Rick,
that
they're
hilarious
saying
when,
that
like,
they're
people-
alcoholics who do not value their family or anybody's life.
Yeah.
Isn't it hilarious when people claim that that they that they can like relate to X character like Rick, and like that character is always the protagonist of whatever it is. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, like the character who most of the time is specifically written to be related to the character we're supposed to sympathize with. You relate to him? Yeah, that seems pretty objective. I don't think
Well-
there's any ideology going on there.
Well, Rick is supposed to be the kind of character you're meant to not be. You're not supposed to be an alcoholic, abusive bastard who
Yeah.
abandoned his family. You're supposed to strive to be above that and escape that. Yet people are like, oh, I want to be just like Rick. Like, no, you don't. You really fucking don't. Don't you get it?
Yeah, people say that they want to be like Rick,
It's like
don't get the
people really
show.
think that if
I
you can
recommend
drink like 2 liters of vodka and then like try and fill out some like experimentation of something and then like think that's going to work like that, like you've seen in the Rick and Morty shows, I could imagine to you, no.
Yeah.
It's funny when like you know, if you want to talk about pure ideology, it's I watched a
Pure ideology.
the purest,
Oh, shit.
just the most pure distilled ideology, 100% ideology. I was watching
Oh
for like
shit!
you know
That sounds
for like
that sounds
academic
spicy.
purposes. For it was pretty spicy. For academic purposes, I was watching a white nationalist podcast once to sort of like study the ideology, just bask in the levels of ideology. And they were talking about, from their
So
perspective,
much
is
ideology.
Rick and Morty woke
Oh god.
on a
Hella
white
woke.
nationalist podcast. And they made like, they talked about some episode where they made like a joke about like inflation or currency devaluation or whatever. And they were making the argument that like, oh, the writers are secretly aware that like the Jews are fucking with our currency to
Oh god.
the West or whatever.
God.
And it's like, wow, this is like some pretty pure ideology because it's
I
like,
know what they're referencing. They're talking about how Rick changed the universal centralized currency to be worth one of itself to be none of itself, and the entire economy collapses.
yeah,
That isn't
yeah,
saying that there's some international Jewry in charge of money. It's saying that the system
Some
relies on this
interplanetary
falsified
system
money.
of one currency, one universe.
I'd like to point out that Discourse
well, that's
Collective.
the thing because it's like, okay, this is this thing that objectively, that like purely isn't really like a Nazi thing, but like it's something that's like apolitical, like in the sense, kind of truly apolitical, you could say. But because they're so high on ideology, they have to make it political. It's like everybody's apolitical when they want something to be apolitical, but it's not really apolitical because stuff that's apolitical is actually really fucking political.
I kind of
But
like
stuff
when you
that
speak
actually
upon
is
like the
apolitical is
deaths of
political when they want it
capitalism,
to be
for
political.
example. If you talk like about all like the amount of people that die due to like treatable diseases and like all of like to like the 25 million that die every 5 years due to capitalism, the people that are apolitical will try to basically make that an apolitical issue just by because, well, look, there isn't capitalism killing people. That's just external issues outside of the market that we can't create solutions for, something stupid like that. And it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake! And this is where the fucking irony of everything just comes into fold. And
The
it's,
magical invisible hand of the free market suddenly can't reach far enough to save a few people from
it's
this
like
external
people,
trouble, which means that they need to get either themselves or the state to step in to fix it.
people will happily call like communism a religion, right? But as soon as you question the invisible hand of the free market, ANCAPs will shit themselves. they will fucking go. They will start raging, shitting themselves, fucking pissing themselves everywhere. And they'll just start going on a fucking kid maloidoid rage on like some fucking, I don't know.
Anarcho-capitalism with invisible
Just
hand
all
hero
this
worship
shit just makes me
characteristics.
Well, it's funny how
angry
it
sometimes.
reminds me of like a couple years ago. Well, more than a couple, right? Like during the whole like Gamergate thing, people were like making a movement, for lack of a better term, because they were upset about supposedly about perceived developers bringing politics into gaming, and they were making a political movement against that. You see the irony there? It's and it's like we said, we were talking about.
Won't it be like the same gamers that complained, like, look, the reason why you can't see the Nazi symbol in like Call of Duty World War II, and like why they got rid of like the Nazi symbols and whatnot? They're just like the German flag symbols that are put on into the as an alternative to the World War II timeline and whatnot. There'll be the same people that complain on that, but then say that, look, we're against this like stance of making our game become politicized to the point where we say, oh look, this is that level of politicization that we don't like, and now you've crossed the fucking line here. And it's like, I don't understand how people can just choose a position and then choose another position the next day, like it's like fucking meaningless.
Well, they have a previous set of ideological stances, and like depending on when it suits them, something can either be apolitical or political. Depending on when it's convenient for them, they can have one of those labels, you know? Because like it's as we said, being apolitical is one of the most political things you can be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to say the reason why
levels of ideology.
I'd like to say that the reason why YouTube politics is such cancer, if we talk about Saga of Akkad and the Gamergate folks, it is mostly because the thing that made them a thing was a very, like, they literally went to an argument and they said, you know what, we have to go back before all this politics invaded our medium, and this will be great. Let's have a movement that will have political undertones. We'll talk about politics, right? But we will say that we hate the modern politics, should go back. It's literally reactionaryism. It's literally reactionary. Like we have to go back to a perfect time of gaming or of politics before it all went to shit because of the leftists. Nah. And this is why all of it is literal cancer and doesn't make sense.
Well, the reason why it doesn't make sense is because no one that plays video games really reads. Like, come on. Have you ever heard someone that plays video games read a fucking book?
Yes, I read books and play video games.
But those people that just play video games, they don't read. They don't actually read anything, but they'll incite to the same like reactionary positions, like Saga of Akkad and like all these other popular YouTubers that fucking widespread like the cancer of like fucking YouTube politics and whatnot, and like full on YouTube centrism. It's people that don't really like to take a position on many things, but if there's something spicy that they'll think, all right, look, this is where I might add a little opinion of my own here, even if it doesn't make sense or not. They might basically circle jerk each other to say, hey, look, yeah, I agree with your opinion, man. Like, yeah, you're so correct, even if the fucking position that they're claiming is not correct.
There's a great line. There's a great line from a movie called Network, which is a movie about an anchorman, and it's towards the end of the movie. He goes on this huge rant about
fuck you, California.
Okay. He goes on this huge rant about various social problems in the world, and he's talking about people's responses to them. And there's a line in said rant where he says, people look at all these problems in the world and they say, please, I may not be remembering the line correctly, but it's something to the effect of this. He says, people look at all these problems in the world and they say, oh, I don't want to hear about it. Please, please just leave me alone in my living room. You know? And
Right, yeah.
I think with a lot of people who, quote, don't like politics, that's sort of the thinking behind it. Just, all of this is shit and just leave me alone. I want to be apolitical. But the problem is you can't be apolitical because we don't live in an apolitical world. And people in this position, when confronted with that reality, there's like a certain set of opinions that I think they have to sort of secure their position.
Mm.
And in the case of the Sargon, the people who play the video games who like Sargon that you mentioned earlier, Samuel, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
We're apolitical, so we don't do our research very well. We don't research these things very thoroughly. But these feminists are coming for our games, so
but it's
let's
the
listen to
people that
Sargon.
also don't research enough are also the people that are making the most bold, primitive statements about like politics in general. Say like I'm this apolitical gamer, right? And I haven't read nothing about like history or historical politics or anything like that, right? But I'm a gamer, but I fucking hate feminism. But the reason why I hate that feminism goes back to like YouTubers who have constantly ranted to me, or the videos that I've watched that have ranted to me saying how bad feminism is, whether or not if I actually go in and actually research the fucking, like, all about feminism, what it actually is. But I'd rather just believe in this little bubblehead hole of like imagination of saying like, look how bad feminism is, and like how fucking cancerous it is that and fucking that the wage gap. Like, that's the fucking most famous argument I hear from like fucking apolitical anti-feminists, and like say like, look, the wage gap doesn't exist, bro. Like, lol, 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 lol. But then you actually provide the fucking evidence, the amount of evidence needed to fucking put them in their asses. They won't believe it because it doesn't fit in their little bubblehead imaginations. And it's the same with every other fucking centrist on the internet. They live in a bubble of their own imagination. And that's how I think of them. As soon as you hit them outside of that bubble of imagination, they ain't really got a position to really hold of or talk about. And it shows you how one-dimensional these people are.
It's just pure ideology, again.
Yeah.
Pure ideology without realizing how ideological your position is.
I think it's time to finish it all up, people. We've been going for like an hour and a half now.
We're up to about
It's
an
been
hour
great.
and 30 minutes. So I just want to thank you all for joining us for a very insightful discussion on an evening with comrades. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Ideology, comrades.
Ideology, yes. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date.
Ideology.
Yeah. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay up to date with everything Eastern Marshlands. You can also go to easternmarshlands.com. I want to thank Eugene, Spooks and Shit, Sam, Socialism and Barbarism, and everyone in the chat for joining us. Be sure to come over to the Eastern Marshlands Discord if you want to continue the chat. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for being here. Good night.
If you donate to our Patreon, you can get the hottest ideology.
Guaranteed.